And another injury that's kind of a red flag here. A guy that missed a little bit of time last year, CJ McCollum, dealing with an abductor injury. So around that midsection area, out at least it sounds like 2 to 3 weeks he's going to be missing time. And this is already a New Orleans Pelican team that's down Dejounte Murray, who was, came in, only got to play a game or two with the team and then ended up being
Cooked.
out. So it sucks for this backcourt right now. And obviously, like it provides additional opportunity, at least here over the next couple weeks. Murray's out for an extended period of time. McCollum's out for 2 to 3 weeks. And then we got Herb Jones, who's also out as well. He'll be missing the next 2 to 4 weeks. So there's a big void on this New Orleans Pelicans team. And it's, you're trying to look for names, but there's not a big, there's only one real scoring option on this team. The rest of them have been role players that are going to have expanded roles now. What are your thoughts overall on this Pelicans, backcourt, wings? Because it's a little thin right now.
It's going to be thin, and I think Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram are going to be just 30% usage, high volume scores for until someone's going to get back. I mean, Trey Murphy's still on the shelf too. Like this roster is definitely down bad right now. And so that means from a fantasy perspective, you got to find who's the next man up. And right now it looks like so Jordan Hawkins is a game time decision for Friday, but I'm thinking now, man, like he's got to be rostered in more than 26% of leagues. His scoring upside alone, similar to Grady Dick, may not give you too much more other than points and threes, but just the sheer opportunity. The dude played 39 minutes in the last game. Like he's got to be rostered in all leagues at this point. And then also if you're in deep leagues and you missed out on Jordan Hawkins or whoever, I think Jose Alvarado is very affordable. Now that, McCollum's going to be missing time, he's going to be probably the starting point guard at this point. I mean, he played 35 minutes in their last game, 16-5-4 with 3 stocks. He's only 11% roster right now. So I think that guy's another one that, like, you're talking short-term value, ride the wave. This guy's going to be getting 30 minutes until CJ McCollum or Dejounte Murray is ready to come back. So that's a W.
That's the major thing that I think enough people don't talk about is minutes. Like that often drives fantasy value. When we see the inconsistency, a lot of times that's because a player got 29, 30 minutes one game, they got 21, 22 minutes the next game. And sometimes that drives value. And I think right now when you're down your two starting guards, you're down a wing player, some of these guys have to have increased roles. Jordan Hawkins has been a player that these guys have all talked up. The New Orleans Pelicans love him and his shooting ability. So to come in there and drop 23 points in a game where you're playing almost 40 minutes, like that screams to me you're going to have additional scoring opportunities. So I really love the play there. Jordan Hawkins provides the 3 ball as well. Probably won't get you a whole lot there anywhere else, but like you mentioned, you were talking about just some elite scores in the game. I think at least for the next 3 to 4 weeks, we could see that out of Jordan Hawkins. And then Alvarado is one of those weird players because he kind of reminds me of like an Alex Caruso in that there's sneaky value there, but like it's sometimes you have to kind of pick your spots with him and what roster build you have. Because he's useful, I would say, in category leagues, he could be useful to some teams, very hurtful to others, like just depending on the build that you have. So I like Alvarado. And, I know you're gonna be sneaking up, getting some steals behind people, especially.
Exactly, you're right. Worst case, he'll get a couple steals for you.
What about anybody else on this team? Because you talked about like Trey Murphy's out too. This Pelicans team has just been like banged up, and like Dejounte Murray's a player that I would go get. Like I think we have
another buy low.
Yeah, I think he's a really good buy low. But what about any other weapons on this team? Is there anybody else on this team you like? Probably has a little bit more value or maybe even a pickup than we're even giving credit for, because this team is full of talent and young players especially.
Yeah, I think Yves Missi is a guy that I'm really looking at and intrigued by because of just his sheer shot blocking. I mean, this dude's blocked 2 shots a game outside of last game where he left a little bit early. He's had at least 2 blocks a game in every game this season. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Daniel Tice start to lose minutes a little bit. I mean, he hasn't really been that great for the Pelicans. And honestly, it's the elephant in the room has been like, who's eventually going to come in here and replace and be an actual starting center? Because, I mean, Willie Green was having Herb Jones playing center at some point. So they're just so down bad in the front court that, like, someone's going to have to get boards on top of, Williamson and Ingram. So I do like Yves Missi if you need some shot blocking, some field goal percentage. I think he's actually a dark horse to make the all-rookie team just off the sheer opportunity that he has because that they have nobody in the front court.
Yeah, and that's, I would say, for the bigs, if you're talking category leagues, it's always one of the more underrated things because you'll see the strong rebounders, and we know that correlates really well with like field goal percentage. Most of the bigs are field goal percentage and rebounds, but it's always nice when they can add the blocks. If it's a block and a half, especially if it's 2.5 blocks. And so to get a guy like Misi who does have the blocking potential too, we talked about that with Mogbo earlier. It's like sometimes that upside is worth enough, especially as a rookie, if they can grow into the starting role second half of the year. Now you're getting a guy with like top 100 upside for the rest of the year. And I think it's, this is the time of year where you can buy low on that type of, when you see little elements of it. I was chasing it. The player I was chasing it with, Dan, was Donovan Clingan. And I was chasing it with Clingan.
It's a little early.
It's a little early, but there's some other guys that are getting opportunity now.
Right. That's exactly right. And I think that that's what you need to be looking at. So, obviously your team isn't what it's going to be 2 months from now, right? Like certain players are coming out hot. Some people are starting out slow. There's going to be some churn on the back end of your bench. But I think that's why, we were talking about this for weeks, in the draft process of like keeping your bench pretty fluid, because there's going to have opportunities where you're going to get somebody that might be able to boost your team for that week, or potentially you can have somebody that might be a hold for like 2 weeks. Like I think Anthony Black is going to turn into a guy that I just picked up this morning, into a guy that I'm going to have for probably 3 weeks just because of the sheer opportunity. Now, it doesn't mean I need to, if he has a bad game and I see somebody else that's better, maybe I'll move on. But like, at least you're giving yourself the optionality to be able to do that. This is where you're going to have to be doing some of those roster adjustments to see what works best for your team. You may not need a shot blocker. And if we're talking points leagues, don't get Yves Misi because he doesn't score enough points to generate interest in that. But like, just understand your format and what deficiencies you might have, because you can easily fill those gaps in the waiver wires right now by the frequency of the injuries that are happening.
Fluidity, be able to adapt by any means. I love that, because if Anthony Black scoring 17 to 20 a game, that's a whole different topic now. Now you hold on to him until he doesn't.
Yep.